Hey everyone, this is Jason Roggasch. I just wanted to make a video really quickly about I live in Anchorage, Alaska, and we are a major oil producing state. Right now, oil is trading at just over $80 a barrel, and it's projected to go down to as low as $70 a barrel. I can't figure out. I've been having a very difficult time figuring out how supply goes up in the world increasingly every single quarter, and yet the price of oil goes down. Supply and demand, right? It's what we all were taught about economics. And I guess since the 2008 bailout, nothing makes sense in economics anymore. And even preceding that, I know that obviously, but I'm just making a topical reference. All right, anyway. But now I think I have figured out, well, at least CNN helped me figure out why oil is being driven down. And I believe that it's being driven down to destroy Vladimir Putin and the Russian government and Russian oil interests. I don't think it's because he's a good person and he's fighting America and he's fighting the New World Order and the Illuminati, all that fucking David Wilcox bullshit, all of that New Age. They're assholes too. We just are the bigger assholes and we just have more power. You got to remember, we are the third largest. America. I'm speaking of America, of course. I don't know where you're listening to this. America is the third largest populated country in the world and growing, whereas Russia has about 100 million people, a little over, and it is not growing. It has leveled off. And in some areas of the country, their population is being reduced. People are just not having as many kids. It's partially due to the economics. It's partially to do with Europe. It's partially to do with many other things, cultural, etc. I don't really want to get into that right now, but my point is we should all take a really hard look on why oil is at $80 a barrel. And I believe that it's these American oil interests who control Iraq and control the means of production out of Iraq the American military controls the second largest oil reserve in the world, and the sanctions that America and other countries have imposed against Iran have made the number one, oil having the largest oil reserve in the world, makes it very difficult for them to sell their product. So which keeps oil artificially high as well, but you're seeing it driven down, and it's been, like I said, in June it started at 115. It was at a peak of 115 a barrel, and is now at 80, and it will go down to 70. Vladimir Putin, according to the CNN article that I'll leave a link to, and I'm showing here on the screen, took his budget at $100 a barrel. So he's right now $20 a barrel off. That will be catastrophic for the economy. It'll be catastrophic for his career. It'll be catastrophic for the oil industry in Russia. It'll be bad for everybody. And I think that's what the Western business interests, the European oil interests want. They have been trying to drive Russia into the ground. I mean, post-World War II America, even pre-World War II, Europe, post-World War II Europe. It's no secret that Europe and Russia do not get along. I mean, you can go back to the Crimean War. There's much more history that Americans just don't understand or don't really look into. And when you do, you start to realize that Europe is America's friend, not really Russia's as much. And I'm not saying that Germans and the Russians, they have a common background. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm overgeneralizing. But what I'm stating is, I believe, and it's showing to be just proof now, oil prices are being driven down. I think ISIS plays into this as well, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. I think and we've read these articles, and I'll leave links to the articles, or you can just Google it yourself, about how ISIS has been putting oil onto the black market, and that has been driving prices down. And then we have all well, how does war and the means of production being altered and them warlords controlling the means of production lower the price of oil? Wouldn't it raise the price of oil? But none of it really makes any sense unless it's to strategically destroy Russia. And I'm not saying that it's good versus evil, any of that nonsense. This is just business versus business. This is just interests versus interests. And if in fact the American Western interest, European interest, etc., who have involvement in the Ukraine, who have involvement in all of the wars and conflicts that we have seen in the last 30 to 40 years, have been European, American, Western influenced. Going back to, some of the Operation Gladio stuff, being being the European terrorist network who caused revolution in places and that's kind of what's going on in the Ukraine right now. And the Ukraine was part of Russia. It's where Chernobyl is. It's a very, those people in the north consider themselves, or excuse me, I think it's it is the north, and I may be incorrect about that, but they consider themselves Russian. This is it's divide and conquer. It's about business. It's all the stuff that we all know already as conspiracy theorists. But I just think we should start taking a hard look at how the American intelligence community tells us about ISIS, conflates it with 9/11, with the planes, the two MH flights. I mean, it just happens to have what airline would have two planes in 1 year. Within a calendar year, go missing, be hijacked and gone missing, and one shot down, and one just missing. That's pretty fucking bizarre. Unless you start to add it into, well, there were two planes that crashed into the Trade Center buildings, and you can do that whole thing. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but you need to be cognizant and aware, as I do, that these things do happen, and they are communicating a message and an idea, and they are communicating a vision. They have been consistent. They have conflated Al-Qaeda with ISIS and told us how ISIS has been causing problems with the oil supply. And our oil is dropping went from $115 a barrel in June to all the way down to $80 a barrel now. And it's hurting the Russian government, and it's hurting it is hurting Western interests, no doubt, but nothing like it would hurt the Russian government. The Russian government and the Russian oil industry is still hand in hand. As America it's more of a capitalistic separation of the two, whereas the government is really locked into oil profits more so than America is. And again, we can get into taxes, and I understand I'm oversimplifying a lot of this. But remember that next time you start to look at why oil prices are dropping, think, is it because that the Western oil interests, and we've seen them telegraph this in Western media in Iraq and in other places, are they purposely trying to drive down the price of oil to undermine Vladimir Putin and Russia? It's something to think about. Do some research about it. Check out the links and let me know what you think below. Thanks for listening and have a great evening.